So far, so good. I think that Greenhorn tournament already succeeding in showing new players how things look like in competitive scene. Uh, I think that people watching the cast later will see a bit of tips and mistakes they can improve on. And so far, so good, boys. So far, so good.
Yeah, and I think it's good. And like, even if you feel it didn't go well in the Greenhorn Cup, I don't let that discourage you, because there's still like so much to learn, and we've seen it over and over again. Like, some player join and I remember when I first joined playing this game, like I got totally decimated in the first, but you know, slowly then learning about the game, you manage to, especially in the beginning, like the learning curve. Once you get a hang of a few things, this, like, the skill level can, like, how much better you get at the game can really explode from there.
Yeah. By the
So I
way,
wouldn't take.
deployment starts at 9 minutes 20 seconds. Let's talk. I will talk a bit about deployment and the matchup. Map it's Cell again. We had the same map previously with a bit different matchup. To be honest, on this map, some Haterneck infantry can shine. Tanks are not that important. There are like certain areas you can easily take with tanks, but most of the time, this is infantry and support equipment like AT guns fight. We'll see a lot of air from 5th Cavalry, and again, this is not a perfect map for placing your AA because you will lock your line of sight or expose your AA to attacks.
Yeah, I do still think that this map is still, like, medium tanks very important. Like, Shermans, T-34, 76s, P4s, I think are very, very important, like, in this fight, and armored cars as well. Because, like, even if, yeah, anti-tanks can be very good, they can also be quite easily countered as well, because there's so many, pockets of line of sight you can sneak through with your armored cars and tanks.
In my opinion, this is
I'm ready for the guard.
horrible map for Stugs though. Like this map is horrible
Yes.
for Stugs. There's so many places
Yes,
you
and
can
if
be
you don't have a
side-shotted.
turret.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, no worries. Everything without a turret hates this map. That's a tank, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yes, let's ready when you are.
Okay, so let's go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And on the blue side, we see Stanton Warrior as 5th Cavalry, Motorizata, and on the red side, we see WarWolf as Haterneck, Maverick. So Vanguard versus Maverick. Do you think this map has enough like pushing points for Maverick to gather the critical mass and roll over the Vanguard?
Yeah, it's like we talked about last time we saw this map. Is that this is one of the maps where Vanguard and Maverick really can take enough points to do the double tick. The downside with Vanguard is that if you really get, like, it's not a big difference in the early game, but usually Maverick really wants to take a little bit in the early game to get a slight advantage, because you really need to blow out the enemy in B phase. But now, like, in B, A, and C, there's not that much difference. So it, like, even if you say, oh yeah, you have the worst C phase, but like, as long as you had a good B phase, you can still slightly be bad in the C phase, but then still take the game. So it's a very interesting income fight here, I think.
Yeah, I was curious why Stanton Warrior didn't contest the middle point, the red flag in the middle valley, but he is pushing on the left and he's pushing with significant force. There is one AT gun. This AT gun is in the position out of range for AB user to fire, but I think it will disencourage Husaroks or WarWolf to cross forward. This is the first game on Cell I see with so weak middle hill for the red side. Only one Husarok squad there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like we see here with Stanton doing the Vanguard again. And what is this about? Like you see here, like, just take a lot of strength in one point. Now it's still, I think, a little bit too spread out. Like, if these like users would have been supported by a tank maybe, and some more infantry, would have been like a really blow up through force. But on the other side, I think that for Haterneck, you want more, less of the Tigers in this game and more of the VK01s or the T34s.
Yeah.
But one thing also is quite a tip is that Stanton lost his leader where his users were, because this is one thing that almost I think like a lot of players does, is that they take the leader. Oh, the leader can go in a super fast transport, and they take the leader in the fastest transport. What often happens then is that it flies past your infantry. So if you have a leader in a very fast transport and your infantry normal transport, your leader will fly past your infantry, and then, like it happened right here, be the first one to get killed. So you lose your leader because it's the one at the front line being a bit out of position. So I think that's a risky play. So sometimes when I know that my leader is just going to roll with normal infantry transport, I actually intentionally take them in a slower transport, like whatever my infantry is using, so they don't fly away too far forward and get shot to pieces.
Yeah, in the meantime, a bit sloppy micro from Stanton Warrior. He sent a cluster and air to kill the Tiger. He lost line of sight, he didn't manually retargeted to the position, and cluster basically didn't drop the payload. In the meantime, fighters from WarWolf arrived, and it resulted in a dead fighter for the Stanton Warrior. I really like how WarWolf is taking care of his air. Like one of WarWolf M109 E4s was smoke trailing. It was already black smoke behind, so he withdrew it to the spawn and evac, and the second fighter he's using for strafing, maintaining temporary air superiority, knowing that there was no AA, at least recently, from the Stanton, and he lost already one fighter.
Yeah, one thing though, I think that WarWolf is doing here, he's pushing up his Husarok on the hills alone. Like, that's not, you're gonna lose. Like, you can see by the front line that the enemy has things in there. Worst, like weakest case scenario, it's gonna be 1 to 2 Famine Warfers, which are still probably gonna win against your Husarok. And as you can see now, when that dies, that was the one thing holding your center hill. So even if you might not lose the flag, it's gonna just the front line is gonna give your opponent the hint that, wait, there's not even anything on my opponent's hill here. I can just walk straight up the hill and take that flag for free.
Yeah, so I think that Stanton didn't notice or didn't do what you should do in that situation. When you see frontline collapsing, when you see that you won engagement, usually the weakest spots are the spots when enemy just attacked you because he spent points of offensive, not defensive. Not a lot of players do defensive in depth, so just push. Why? Because if you pushed already with this ABU sword and this 3 infantry squads and the leader, you'll take this flag probably. This Panzer Grenadier won't stop you. It will probably won't arrive to the forest before you do, and the transport will be easily killed by ABCR and it will be in the open. Usually where you should push as soon as you can and you spot the occasion, because you don't want enemy to reinforce the position. And right now if you push to this position, to the middle hill, 2 Panzer Grenadiers in the green cover can stop, like, without, if you don't bring more support, will stop your infantry crossing into the open.
Yes, and like Orman says that this is really like a grindy map that can go really slow, but I disagree. That I think that due to the flag's position, you can certainly get a double tick here. Yes, it can grind to halt if your opponent really really gets an annoying defense, but at the same time, like we saw in earlier games, I've seen many games on this map like being over in 20 minutes. As you, even if there's a lot of defensive hills, that also the same for the offensive player, that they can utilize that to really sneak around and up and take the points. So I feel like there are some maps that really go down to a grind. I think that this is not one of those maps. Of course, you can end up in that mode, but I don't think that that's the default mode of this map.
Yeah, I really like Stanton Warrior, like, mind games though. He showed the cluster, a bomber, he made a circle around, nothing happened, so he decided to fake attack on the Tiger, like evac almost immediately, and WarWolf fighter dive in and Hotchkiss were already there. Hotchkiss killed the fighter. That's a nice thing to do. Maybe better players won't fall into it, but sometimes you don't know until it's too late if enemy has AA. and it's 100 points gone.
Yeah, in the same time though, like I think that both player here they're doing good stuff. Like we say, Werewolf, he has the Altar in the church in the city in the north, giving him some good field of vision. At the same time, like his 45 millimeter attack is in a really good position in the north, like looking down the road into blue. Like he knows, like he's using the sight tool well, has good knowledge, putting the his recon in a good spot, putting his AT stuff in with good sight lines. I think both players here are playing like very well.
Yeah. Although I think that Stanton is doesn't have a plan for the game. I think that other than this cluster bait, he's playing kind of reactionary. I don't see him pushing. I don't see him responding. Actually, I think the initiative, not in terms of points and then units on the field, but in terms of actions taken, is in hands of WarWolf.
Yeah, exactly. I would say the same. We're closing in on the part of where Wolf really gonna shine, because A and B there's gonna be a slight advantage to Stanton, and then there's only in B we really see a big difference of income. But as we can see here, luckily his cluster pain could deal with the T-34 in the middle, and he has the AA to defend it on the way back. But other than that, there's like no tanks around here, so that's very very risky. If there would be like 3 T-34s, like we talked about, like critical mass pushing up here, maybe he could cluster one, but the other two would push through, easily kill whatever's around here, and also get the double AA that's in the back. So right now, I think one thing that you always want, like right now, if you look at Stanton's like south half of the map, the only AT he has is a 45 millimeter. Like, it's very risky. Like, you always want to have something that is like can deal with AT in like roughly every part of your defensive line, as long as you know that you're not up against like a division that doesn't have any armor at all. But Haterneck is not one of those divisions. You're gonna see Tigers, Panzer IIIs, Panzer 1-2s, I mean, and T-34s, and you need to be not be able to be caught such off guard that Stanton could happen here in the south.
Yeah, but Stanton is slowly but surely gathering forces in the south. I think that he already could push with these light vehicles the middle hill. He's sending the looks to the valley down the hill. He brings the Stug and Turo story to the south. I think that he has more enough to push. If you take a look and calculate how much points Stanton has on bottom side of the map and how much red guy has, Stanton has upper hand. He just need to basically to push.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is also that yes, he needs to do that, but he needs to bring some. Now a Stug is coming in. Like we said, not really a tank that likes this map at all, but he needs something that to be able to deal with tanks if he wants to push up here. In the meantime, WarWolf, we see him playing 6 the other game, liking air, and even here in Haterneck, not really an air division, but he's still utilizing air a lot here. And Stanton is really responding to that well. And Stanton has very heavy AA investment.
Yeah, I would be surprised if none of these planes fall down. Maybe he'll be a bit lucky.
Make it because they're enough. They didn't go close enough to the AA to really take the big hit, and at least they're good resilience.
Yep. Husharoks down the valley are taken slowly. Off map for the WarWolf is coming. I just hope he doesn't lose it to a machine gun or to Vickers sitting in the back line of Stanton. And listen, Stanton, you brought so many units. You killed so many units in the area. Now you need to push. Now it's your moment to push. Now it's your moment to shine. Yeah, he's bringing more infantry to the north, but I think that he should focus and give a decisive blow in the south. Why? Because you're already slowly pushing enemy back in the middle. You took 2 flags, you took the valley, you are pushing your infantry in the forest. You know that enemy has a lot of troops for now sitting idle in your right side in the north. push the bottom. Push the bottom. That's what you should do.
Yes, exactly. And it's like you see now, especially what I think that Stanton sees this huge bulge in the front line that's now getting see if he can utilize it. He's sending in a lot of good infantry. This was sent before he saw this bulge in the front line. So let's see if he's gonna keep on capitalizing on that, utilizing this infantry sent in, not just to send it where he originally intended it, but now seeing that this bulge of like emptiness here, if he can really dig deeper into the enemy's front line with that. In the meantime, we'll see if this Luch can stop the enemy reinforcements coming in. Oh, they might be caught very off guard here, just north of the center hill.
Yeah. Oh no, no, unload, guys.
This, yeah, it's been very bad for WarWolf's defense.
Yeah, and this is 90 points gone for WarWolf. It's phase B, so of course he can afford more, but you see that there's only infantry coming, no tanks. And I see that Stuks are coming just now. Like, in my opinion, if you want to do it, you should like combine the effort, so bring infantry and tanks mixed. Because, you know, right now you lost 100 points for nothing.
Exactly. It's like we said, you really need to make sure that, yes, you mass, but you also make sure that whenever you do engage, you have a mix of forces, not just like we saw now. Even if there's a huge infantry blob here from Stanton, but even if there was none infantry here, those 90 points of infantry would still be single-handedly destroyed by that Panzer II Luch, which was in that area.
Yeah, it was killed by VK9. I think that both players kind of struggling against light armor. Of course, it's easier to say than to do it. Actually, dislodge VK9 from the light forest. But I think from both players, a bit of unnecessary losses to light vehicles. Sometimes you can just smoke.
I think, yeah, like we said, I think both are overestimated a bit in the infantry department, where they could get like a tank or two, like the T-34 2 more, or like some more recon cars to really deal with the infantry. Because like we saw here, like that Lush was what would have had that, like if that would have been no Lush on that side but a VK1 on the other side, then that fight would probably maybe even gone the other way around.
Yeah, we have 14-10, but to be honest, it's looking like few bad trades, few desperate moves, even from Stanton, like deciding to use Ju-87 to bomb VK9 in the area. You know, there is already heavy A because you tried to bomb bomber. Not only you tried to kill a 30-point unit with 100-point cluster plane, you also lost your cluster. So this light vehicle, single VK9, is so far MVP for WarWolf. This single VK9 did more than his infantry in the middle, or
it's almost out of ammunition as well. It's quite a feat. I think that one also thing we see that Stanton is missing is that he's playing very offensive, but he has so much AA invested, and it's very far back. It's playing like the defense area. He has, what is that, like 150 in the south, and then you have a Vickers like another what is that, 110 points in the north together with two other. Yeah, that's like 410 points invested in AA. And that's like, you don't have that much advantage in the early. So he really went for the long game with that investment, while he still tried to push. So I think that's one thing. And if he goes that heavy into A, you really need to dominate the air meta and go for the longer and be able to utilize your air, which I don't think that Stan has been able to do here. The question though is we're halfway through B, and WarWolf has just touched 12-12 for a once. He really needs to get back being on the winning side, because if it's still 12-12 while you hit C phase and you've lost your B phase like steam or momentum, it's gonna be like not impossible, but it's gonna be a tough, sloggy way back to get the game.
Well, but it's not like Stanton Warrior has really a lot of stuff in C, or even in B. Like, the only plane he brought in B were 2 cluster plane cards. Yeah, the cluster planes were so far successful. but they usually don't win you the game in the long run. I didn't see a lot of artillery from neither of the player. So to be honest, this looks like it will end in slow but sure infantry grind, and each VK9, so light vehicles, is like the price of gold in that situation.
Yeah, really. Like we've seen both the looks and the VK9 being very, very doing a lot for both sides here. That's why I said like would have wanted to see a bit more of that, because instead of just having one or two, if you get that critical mass of a few of them, it really helps a lot. In the meantime, WarWolf did very well of surrounding Stanton's infantry, so he has a lot of things behind enemy lines, but Stanton took back a lot of front line now by surrounding that Stanton push that he had in the north, or the center north.
Yeah. WarWolf already a bit annoyed by cluster spam from the Stanton, so 2 SDKFZ 7-1 coming to the front line. It's worth noticing that most of AA for a WarWolf is already on the field. He has only 1 or 2 SDKFZ 7-1 more. If Stanton doesn't do anything against them, of course that's more than enough to stop JO87s. But I think it won't even matter, because Stanton doesn't have anything other than clusters, and I think that WarWolf has a lot of more Stooks, even Tigers in the deck. How many Tigers did we see? Like 1 dying in the cluster in the valley, 1 still holding the ground in the north. By the way, it could be easily side-shotted by Stanton. Let me see if he has vision on it. Okay, he doesn't have vision. If you switch to Stanton Warrior point of view, like I can understand why he's usually buying clusters and bombing stuff, because he doesn't see anything else than tanks. Nothing else.
Yes. Yeah, we can really see that that's this map, that there's hard to see things. So we have in the God's Eye it's really much easier for us to tell, as we see so much more. But yeah, we don't. Ooh, a 7-1 going down to a tank is for WarWolf. That one hurts. Like your 7-1, you really want to be careful. They're so expensive, but they're so good AA pieces. So you really want to be careful. Having the other one so far up to the front line is a very risky play.
Yeah, especially that I just mentioned that you don't have much of them in the deck either.
Yes, exactly. There are very few. In the meantime, the VK9 in the south is also keep on doing the good work. There's a Panzerschreck close by. I don't think the VK9 will last much longer, because I think that it's been emboldened by not getting killed yet, being so close up. Can the Panzerschreck die though before? No, the VK9 moves away. It might actually survive it.
Yeah.
Wow, in the meantime, the Jaeger Pioneer Wolf really decimated the North Hill. And now that SDK 7-1, while it's not threatened from anywhere, it really has a great position up here on the hill.
Yep. I think that this SDKFZ on middle hill is good sport for AA if you completely secure the hill, which is not the case yet.
Yeah.
I'm curious why there is no a single mortar from Stanton. We know that he has 40-point mortars in phase A, 8 of them. And even single one would, like, you can smoke the VK9 and push with infantry. You can force infantry to fall back. It will win you so much on the middle hill, in the forest between the hills a bit to the north.
Yeah, I think it's like you said earlier, like both players, they've been very heavy on infantry, and I think that's one thing that would have gone better for them if they went more heavily on like the support to the infantry. Like instead of just winning the infantry fight by having more infantry than your opponent, to having some infantry, but then actually having infantry support like mortars or armored cars doing the actual damage and winning you the infantry fights.
Yeah, I don't really remember what kind of artillery WarWolf brings, but I think the Stanton could use a bit of combined arms, especially that cheap combined arms as his 40-60mm mortar. It will help him like massively in pushing any position, like smoking, bombing and suppressing AT guns, even AA. Like it could be golden in this situation.
In the meantime, the Stanton has like a one thing. He has a Vickers pretending to be a AT gun in the north, like the Vickers AA gun. First, I don't like it because I think it's not very good at all. I think it underperforms often when I see it. It's like the 105 mm artillery RT piece of the Axis. But here also, when it's in the forest, it's almost never going to shoot at any planes. And speaking of planes, we have a HE-111 doing a risky. You know that the AA has been here. It's a very risky to send your bomber in that direction when you've seen that AA been standing in the same spot in the entire game. But wow, that was a huge damage he dealt.
Yeah, I also think that good tip for both players is try to move your AA from time to time, especially after enemy sorties. You didn't see artillery from neither of the players yet, but you can see them in any moment. And yes, Stanton is bringing 122mm in 23-minute mark. WarWolf is bringing Commander to the north. I like Commander in general, but there is single leader. There is single leader for the AA park. And that's all. There is no more leaders for.
I agree with you in double sense. That first is that it's very important to move your AA every now and then, because if they get RT'd or something, or your enemy tries to bomb them, it's great that they move them so they miss. And that's also very important because, like you said, if they start getting bombed, it's already too late to move them. So make it a habit every now and then to move it slightly to make sure that if you get RT, they miss. In the meantime, that now that SDK said 7-1 AA really needs to move back from the hill. It's like you said, while you don't hold the hill, you can't risk your 7-1 here because you don't have a lot of AA, especially in this deck. And as we can see, there's been a lot of airplay in the game, so you can't really afford to lose that one, because I don't think WarWolf has many other AA pieces in the game, and
No,
if
he
loses
has
AA,
maximum 2 more SDKs at 7-1 maximum. That's all he has.
and if he loses his AA, then we see how many clusters Stanton has, and then those clusters is just gonna decimate WarWolf's attempt and really spell the end of this game, I think.
Yeah, we cannot forget that Haterneck has pretty good fighters, but at least 3 fighters already went down for WarWolf. We see that Stanton invested a lot of AA. I think he brought at least 3 cards already on the field because he lost 1 Vickers. So it's looking kind of rough.
Also, one thing that we saw earlier that Stanton mistakenly did was he left his air after they killed an airplane. He left them in the air hovering about, and that made him lose 2 fighters to the 7-1, unfortunately. And speaking of that, but the 7-1 was now killed by normal infantry, like we said. It needed to pull back. And yes, it's easy for us to see, but you can just see on the front line, as soon as the enemy, looking at the front line, start getting line of sight to your 7-1, that, or before they even get there, you need to make sure that you move your AA away so you don't lose it. But yeah, he at least has 1 more coming in, and 2 more Flak 38 double coming into the south.
Yeah, but look, where is this SDK Z71 going? It's going to the very same position it was before, or like pretty close, and risking it not only via this road, but also on the hill again. Like this can be a loss, which can cost you the game if you lose another SDK Z for basically free. I'm not pretty sure what Stanton Warrior is targeting with artillery. I think something was there, maybe Jagdpanzer, which moved forward. And first Resita this game. Have you seen any Resita earlier? Oh my god, Resita in 27 minutes.
I don't think so.
Firing the tiger.
He hasn't really had for them because he's been cluster bombing whatever tanks he has. But here we see finally some armor that we should want. Like it's a tiger with 2 T-34s. Like this is the kind of thing. Like yes, it's up against a Resita, so that's not really where I want to be. But these 3 with a STK-71 support is a good thing to be able to. So if you get rid of that Resita, which is now pinned, this is going to be a good force pushing up, especially now with the AA support.
Yep. But slowly but surely we are going into attrition war. Look, this is 27 minute Vanguard versus Maverick. We know that both players, most of the cards were in phase A and B. So at this point, none of players really has teeth to push enemy to the spawn with sheer force. This is going slowly into attrition war. Unavoidable attrition war. Who do you think has upper hand in terms of deck? Not really the composition the player brought, but the deck themselves. Haterneck or Cavalier Motorizata?
I say that both can certainly be build the deeper deck here. So I think it would be I wouldn't say that any of the divisions in itself is much more shallow than the other, because they're both mechanized, which makes them somewhat shallow compared to many in infantry decks, etc. And I don't remember looking at the decks which one had the deeper infantry or tank type. That's the thing though, is that WarWolf has the much deeper infantry support in times of T-34s and Tigers. It's just that can he keep his AA and can he defend them from air attacks from Stanton? Because if he can, they are just gonna keep on bringing him good KD, grinding out the enemy.
Yeah, WarWolf going all into AA. He doesn't want to lose his precious tanks to the clusters anymore, and Stanton investing into a lot of infantry. Quadrayu would say, if you are not bringing spam of infantry, you would do something wrong, so he'll be probably proud of Stanton Warrior going all in into the middle hill with infantry everywhere. But again, there is nothing you can do against these T-34s. I mean, there is what you can do in the deck, but there is nothing currently there. And more artillery.
And I think that, in the long time, Stanton is going to have much better infantry. Having a bunch of Rosori versus Grenadier DPs, Rosoris is going to be so much better. And this 7-1 took a lot of damage from the artillery here. Stanton has invested in artillery, while WarWolf has not. He's bringing in another 7-1. One is quite damaged, so if he loses these two 7-1s here in the middle, I think that might spell the end for him. So he really needs to be careful and very attentive, because one good thing that Stanton has been doing here is that he spots when there's his air flies by, he makes sure to mentally note where the enemy AA is, and then he sends artillery there, or if he sees them, which is very good, because that's his way. If he gets away with that, if he gets rid of that AA, then he's going to overwhelm WarWolf.
Yeah, and he slowly but surely creeping enemy EA, targeting flag SDKFZ 11 with artillery, killing one flag SDKFZ 11 with Resita. So AA on the south, okay, it's two SDKFZ 7-1 and two flag 38 20mm. It's more than enough to stop JUs, but it's looking thinner and thinner with every second.
Yeah, and it's very even though that Stanton doesn't have the tanks, he's the one that been able to now invest in artillery without losing his front line, and right now, for example, these T-34s, if he just could get rid of the Rosita in the south city, and he could just go up and kill all of these AAs and artillery pieces, and that could really really mess Stanton over. But he's using it so defensively, but at the same time, it's very risky because of the amount of cluster planes, and the 7-1s really need to be careful of not dying, but at the same time being close enough to his tanks to actually protect him from the clusters.
Yeah. I need to take a look if Stanton sees this T-34 on the edge of the hill. Okay, he doesn't see it because it's in pretty vulnerable position. You could easily side-shot it or just unload Resita on the road and kill this T-34 for free, and it's one less T-34 to have trouble later. Push from WarWolf 3 infantry squads to the forest on the middle hill, but there is more than enough to stop from Stanton.
Exactly. Just these a right Jäger and two Grenadiers. It's your opponent is going to have a lot of infantry because they're don't have much else to invest their points in. So what you need before going into that, you needed to bomb it first, maybe some artillery or something. Just sending your infantry blind is very risky, especially at the very edge. They're going to do better because as long as your own tanks can support them, they're still good. But as soon as they they're too deep into the forest for your tank to support, then it's not going to be a fun time for you.
Yeah, WarWolf doing maybe not last resort, but dedicated push to the north, retaking one flag. Not using his Raider Jager in the forest though, but 2T-34s uncontested will slowly merge the infantry. Oh, now Raider Jagers are moving, and MP STG's MP44 and MP40 will probably make a short work of this infantry in the forest, especially the two squads are already almost suppressed.
Yeah, the problem though is that if he just shoots at the pinned squads while the unpinned squad shoots him back, it's gonna hurt him. But at least he's getting reinforcements in pioneers now. And here's another, like we say, if these T-34s could just dealt with the Rosori, it's yet again an AA part they could just kill. So I feel like one thing that WarWolf could have done here is that at sometimes peek past with his tank to snipe the back line. Like it's the same with the hill here. If his T-34 was a bit brave and like tried to sneak over and look on the blue side of the map from the hill, it could probably snipe like an AA gun or some artillery pieces or something. Now these artillery pieces do have heat shells, so they do fight back quite bad or quite dangerously. But still, it's something I think that's been a missed opportunity a few times during this game. The same as his Tiger in the north of the main hill has just been taking howitzer shell after howitzer shell, and he's not utilizing that armor advantage he has. He's not really trying to use that Tiger to, take it. And now he lost it.
Yeah, he lost it, and Stanton is targeting AA pieces one by one, even pinpointing when they are on the field. I still don't like that first 40-point mortar, which he has 18A, is appearing on 34th minute of the match. Like if he brought them much earlier, it would be much smoother experience for him. And right now he's in trouble on the north. Jaeger, Pioneer, Raider Jager, half tracks, 2T-34 is more than enough to clean everything Stanton has in the south. And I think that if he forgot about mortars for whole game and bringing them right now, it means that he is slowly running out of the things in the deck.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I feel like WarWolf is running out quicker, though, because the howitzers and the AA is really gaining the thing. Like we just saw, those pings are great. So for new players, like you see enemy artillery, sometimes you don't see the artillery itself, but you can see like the shell shooting. One thing you can do is press F1 and then click on it on the map, and then you get a beacon, and that can be a reminder for you to later when you send in your bombers or artillery, you can just target that ground area and to attack them. That's what Stanton is doing now. When he flew with his plane, he could see where the AA was. He marked it with the beacon, and then he makes sure that his artillery shoots there. And then WarWolf is doing the mistake that as soon as you see that your opponent starts doing that, then you need to move around your AA. Or that means that you're already a bit late to moving around your AA.
Yep. But in the meantime, WarWolf in the north for you, I guess, is taking ground. Not only taking flag, killing 3 AA pieces, 4 will probably fall shortly, and there is nothing but 2 mortars holding the ground. Okay, the cluster plane is coming, 3 infantry squads are coming. That's more than enough to stop the bleed for now.
Yeah, he would have needed to have the city AA move up to be able to support this attack. Luckily, he's killed a lot of the enemy AA. As you can see, the 75mm is still not in a position to fire.
Yeah.
And this is a good push for him if he managed to pull through here.
They traded one fighter for the one cluster plane. I think that in the end, cluster plane is more dangerous than a fighter in this matchup. So WarWolf can be a bit happy. One cluster left for Stanton the warrior. I think he doesn't have much more. He lost already a lot of them.
And I think one thing that actually is happening here is like when it's a grindy match, what WarWolf is trying to do is that he sends in like one TIG of infantry to attack. But here we can see in the scene, like he's done it or 4 times maybe, where he takes like 3-4 infantry and tries to attack into the forest. And in the forest we can see there's a lot of stuff here. Like even seeing it from war point where you don't know there's a lot there, you have to like assume it, because you can like doing it several times. It's not gonna work. It hasn't worked yet. Yes, now you're sending the bomber a bit late, and you know the AA is there since several times, and that's where you lose your bomber. So what you need to do is first deal with the AA with your own howitzers or peeking around somewhat, or not attack at all, because attacking when it's a grind fest, just attacking like that makes you lose a lot more thing than your opponent does, and you're gonna lose out in the long run with that way. Especially now, WarWolf is not winning the grind game at all, because Stanton has actually transferred over to as both players are failing on dealing a lot of damage with their air. Stanton has been able to switch over to artillery while still holding the front line, and the artillery is just paying off the long game. And we see the first off map here from Stanton as well.
That's weird. A phase, 80 point off map coming in 40th minute. That's I think kind of miscalculation. Like you should use this off map pretty early. Not only because early you have no AA from enemy, so off map can reach the target and doesn't die. Enemy needs to invest at least in fighter to kill it. Most of the time you can surely drop the off map on the position you want. And as I was fan of WarWolf like repositioning his AA, he again risked this SDKFZ on the hill for a second. Like if this Rosita was a bit in different position, this SDKFZ would be already dead.
Yes, and at least he moved. And now we see there's like 60 millimeters dealing damage to the Stugs, and you need to be careful there, because that's the thing. Is like even like light mortars and medium mortars, they can deal, or medium like the 60 millimeters, they can deal with tanks by just spamming them with HE. So you need to be careful, and that's what Stanton is doing right now. He's using that artillery to grind away, while WarWolf doesn't really know how to handle it at the moment. He doesn't really have a way to get that. He doesn't get any artillery himself, and what you need then to do generally is that you need to be able to sneak around where you can snipe off them, which you should be able to do in this map. But I think that WarWolf is going to struggle, because he just has Grenadier DP infantry, some other things, and his AA is getting sniped slowly but surely by artillery.
Yeah, it's pretty tough spot for WarWolf. I cannot say he's losing artillery war. He has no artillery when Stanton brought several artillery pieces. Okay, some of mortars already running out of ammo. Yes, but they still have smoke. You still have even supply trucks to resupply your 1 to 2 millimeters. And even if you run out of 1 to 2 millimeter HE shells, they still have heat shells to kill Stugs, to kill Tigers, to kill any tank you can bring. But I don't see much tank coming from WarWolf. I think he's dry already. And SDKZ dying on the north. Oh no, that's on the crossroad.
And losing a lot to give ups as well, because Stanton still has CQC infantry, while Grenadier DP, they're not going to do. Grenadier DP is not going to win an infantry fight unless they're very much overwhelming the force enemy. And also at the same time, his North Tiger is also getting artillery to pieces, because this Tiger has been in the north, and this Panzer 34 without actually, if this T-34 would have just moved up, he could have found these AA and these mortars and just kill them off. But he hasn't been. That's one thing that I said earlier. WarWolf need to peak with these tanks, to find those kills. And in the meantime, also what WarWolf did is that he just brought in an off-map, just off-map the center. He should have done that before he sent in his infantry. Like he sent in 3-4 infantry 4 times. Instead of sending in that, have 3-4 infantry stack up 3 or 4 times. So you would have like 8 to 10 infantry squad almost, and then off map and then send in the infantry. While now he's losing his yet another Stug to just mortar bombardment.
Yeah, and he lost the Tiger to the Vickers. And right now, WarWolf is doing what he should done earlier. If you feel blood, you push. You don't allow your enemy when he's losing the front line to buy artillery, to buy planes. And let's be honest, Stanton invested much more into artillery and like infinitely more, because WarWolf didn't invest anything, and he invested much more into planes than WarWolf. So he for sure had enough point on the ground to push earlier.
Exactly, he had a point to the ground, and also what he did is that he sent in them piecemeal instead of like we see, like he had this off map all the time, doing off map, sending it in. That would have been efficient. Also, one thing is that he did the same spot. Like if it doesn't work and you don't build up to attack water, try to find other spots. Like you've been trying to attack the same spot several times, but that's the good part with Cell, is that there's so many paths you can sneak around and try to find like the enemy backside. So in this map, it's very possible to sneak around some infantry or like a VK9 or a Stug, to sneak it around and maybe get some sightline on the backside where you can kill some artillery or AA.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I think Mist plays the off map on the north. You have some infantry around. You know that your T-34 went around without much trouble. This off map would do much more if you put it on the edge of the town or slope of the hill. Small mistakes. I think that after 43 minutes game, I mean, we are already exhausted a lot. I think they're exhausted even further. Exhaustion is part of the game at this point.
Yeah, I think very much like Orman is saying, is like they had very good positions, like good sight lines in the early game, but we see we're at the 43 minutes. Like the placement of units is a bit more ragtag and not really as well thought out. I think that they've lost the fine tuning and more just shoving more units into the meat grinder right now.
Yep. WarWolf is having advantage in flags, but I think this is pretty temporary advantage. Nothing is holding the mid, and there's like 3 flags for him. As soon as this Biokubel dies, at least 1 or 2 flags will be taken by WarWolf. Stug is gone, there is no tanks, only 1 P4 going to the north. Another T-34 dies to Panzerschreck in the north. It's looking rough. And it looks like Stanton War is not drying infantry. He is bringing more and more. Although he's bringing recon snipers in 45th minute. He should use them a bit earlier.
One thing is, we're seeing now that one thing you often see when it's a grind fest, it's that one player keeps on pushing, failing, pushing, failing, pushing, failing. The other one more defensive. And that's what WarWolf has been doing this game, pushing and failing. And those pushes make you get bad KD, right? Because you're not going to be as good as the defenders, so you lose a lot. And that positive difference for Stanton has been invested in Artie to really grind out the game. And it's not until now, as you can see, when he has maybe had 8 units in the middle, that he actually went for the push. And that push worked because he had a critical mass. Now it got off-mapped, but that's the good part also, is that off-map was just a delay, because there was no follow-up from WarWolf, because he sends it up a bit too piecemeal. That's one good thing Stanton has been doing, is that he built up, grinded out, and now when he has a build-up and feel that the enemy is weak after all this mortar bombardment and everything, he pushes up and with a significant force, and then the push is successful.
Yeah, and I need to add, I think that WarWolf was in better spot for this game. He was taking, even recently, he took more help from Stanton Warrior. I think he had enough pushing power earlier. I think what really gave him a trouble in this game is that he was pushing, but he wasn't pushing immediately after he spot the weak spot, or he get a favorable trade, he cleared a lot of units from Stanton attack. He should push immediately. What he did instead, he waited for reinforcements for Stanton, and that, in chivalrous way, he was sending his men to death, basically.
Yes, exactly. Is like we said, often he was too slow to do the push, and often when he was doing the push fast, it was just piecemeal, a little bit at a time, right in the Stanton's strong point, pretty much, which have really made him ground-hold. While now in the north, there's nothing on Stanton but mortars, but that off-map is just gonna like this, like really pin down the little thing that WarWolf has himself.
Yeah, but it looks like Stanton has no infantry at all. So to be honest, if he lose, and he lost already APs, if he lose this holding frontline basically mortar and half track, he can still lose the game.
Yeah,
I think that
exactly. Like
this
in
this
this game,
is
even if you're winning, just running out of stuff can totally flip the game.
like, we can consider this exhausting game long game, but this game is going tooth for a nail for 50 minutes, and I still don't know who will win.
Yeah,
I don't know who will win. Like, it can go both ways, and like the flag in the forest, like between the hills, is easy takeable for the red side. And in the meantime, there is like no point. Stanton can easily recover, at least currently.
yeah, that is true. It looks a lot easier. Like, yeah, those right Jaegers, if they just moved up 1 centimeter, they would take yet another flag back. And it's like you say, Vickers is what's being pushed on the front line on Stanton's side. Even if he was doing everything right, he didn't have enough depth in his deck to hold out as long as WarWolf has been able now. Because he's still sending in now some Hetzers and some infantry.
Yeah, this a new thing for me, but Haterneck outlasting deck in a 50-minute fight. This is happening. It's 14-10, and there is nothing to stop. I mean, okay, there is Resita, but if this Reiter Jaeger go into the forest, if WarWolf, okay, it's
Stanton surrenders.
all right. So this is 1-1 for
Look at KD as well.
yeah, 2 for an 8 for 50 minutes.
Almost exactly the same for this long game. It's
Holy
really
crap.
been a grind.
Even looking at the kill feed, it's like, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, like till the very end. Okay, at the end, last 4 minutes, Stanton killed a lot, but he didn't have enough power to hold the front line. Oh man.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, like the last, like from the 30 to 40 minutes, Stanton was really killing the game. Like he was playing defensive, doing all the right thing, but he just ran out of things. And it's like we said, like if it's when we talk about Vanguard versus balance, that balance, you don't need to have a super long time deck, because if you're up against Vanguard, you just need to survive early game and then have slightly more than your opponent. Just like here, even if you have the deck that seems to be not as long lived, and we didn't even see any artillery from Haterneck, yet they won the long grind because they had just like a card or so more of outlasting your opponent.
Oh man, like this was long game, but I think the outcome is interesting. Stanton surrendering like around 30-40 minute mark. I would favor Stanton using artillery in his favor, but you see, even in very long game, you can win without artillery. And even you can win without artillery in long attrition war when enemy has their superiority.
Yeah, I do think though that what we saw is that like Stanton had like nothing left in his deck, and Stanton still saw WarWolf bringing in new cards of stuff. Like he just saw like one of his flag being lost by infantry in Uber blitzes, meaning that there's like the infantry is still coming. Like, and I think that was what was breaking, because he was really losing his front line because all the infantry had left was in the center pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think that it made sense to give up there, especially we don't know, but probably a lot of not much left in Stanton's deck, if anything at all.
So 1-1 in series. So the biggest feedback for both players is, if you spot that enemy has a weak spot, push. Usually it's the best thing you can do. You can get more ground, fortify, catch enemy in the open, reinforcement, and so on. And second thing, try to focus more about combined arms. We could see this both from Stanton and both from WarWolf, that they are saying like infantry, then tanks. Like infantry died before tanks arrived, then tank died because no infantry screening, then again infantry, again tanks. And for Stanton, if you have 40-point mortar in your deck in A phase, like there were certain moments in the game you could afford 40 points to have fire support and suppress stuff for yourself.